This meta deck is destroying your locals. Here's what it is. What is up, y'all? My name is Batu and welcome back to the channel. We are getting to the 1,000 marker, so make sure you become a link today. That way we can hit 1K on the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the biggest, baddest, and best meta decks that you could possibly play in this meta, but only if you can afford it. And yes, Yu-Gi-Oh is very expensive. I mean, this deck costs that PS5 in the background. Anyway, the deck that I'm talking about is the Spright Brave, aka Adventure Spright. What makes this deck very popular is because it has consistency as well as the ability to weed out hand traps. Because this format, we are very big on those hand traps. Any way that we can get or bait those hand traps will help us. But if you do like more content from me, or you want to see some more awesome duel videos, let me know in the comments below what you think about this video. Hit a like and subscribe down below. Let's get right into this deck profile. I'm going to be showing you guys the profile that won my recent locals, so do take this as a stepping point for you to upgrade this for your specific locals. So let's get right into this deck profile. We're going to start with the Spright monsters. First off, we have to run 3 copies of Spright Blue. What Spright Blue does is when he is special summoned to the field, Spright Blue can add a Spright monster. The next card that we have is going to be 3 copies of Spright Jet. Now when Spright Jet is special summoned, he can bring out a Spright spell or trap. For the rest of the Spright cards, I'm going to be running the 1 Spright Pixies, 1 Spright Red, and 1 Spright Carrot. Essentially, the other Spright cards are here. That way I have additional ways or additional bodies just in case I already bring out both the Spright, Jet, and Blue. And each of these has their own special effects. Unfortunately, in this video, I'm not going to go over those special effects, but if they do come up here and there. Now, as mentioned, the cool thing about the Spright cards is as long as you control a level 2, a link 2, and a rank 2 monster, you can actually special summon these Spright monsters. So, in this deck, I do run 1 copies of the Toad engine. If we do have a Swamp Frog and we have Spright Blue in our hand, we can actually summon Spright Blue using the effect of Spright Blue's effect, as well as getting the additional addition of all these speller traps. Those are all the Spright monsters that you'll be playing. As for the rest of the engines, we're going to be running, of course, our Brave engine, or the Adventure Token engine, starting off with 3 copies of Water Enchantress of the Temple. She is one of the best discards of the deck because we do run the Swamp Frog engine. You can actually use her as discard fodder, and you can actually get your Rite of Aramis here. So yes, 3 copies of Water Enchantress. Then you'll have your 1 copy of Wandering Griffin Rider. This is your Omni Negate of the deck. Awesome card, best way to have it. Then, since we are playing the frogs, we're running 3 copies of the Swamp Frog. We're also running 1 copy of the Ronin Totem and 1 copy of Dupe Frog. One of the cool techs that I've decided to play in this deck, and it's because she is one of my favorite Cypress monsters, I am running the 1 copy of Nightmare Corruptor Ibly. Now what Ibly does is when she is used as link material, she special summons on your opponent's side of the field, and your opponent is locked from special summoning except link monsters. What are the odds of your opponent having a Link Spider, Almirage, or etc.? Pretty low, and especially because those materials are different, I do think Nightmare Corruptor Ibly does have a spot in this deck. And essentially, those are the monsters that I'm running in the deck. For hand traps, I'm of course running Cyphering Gear Gamma and the 1 Driver. Now, using cards like Emergency Teleport, which is in this deck, allows me to special summon Gamma, which also allows me to get right into my Spright engine right away. Not only that, the Sci-Frame Gear Gamma package is actually honestly one of, if not the best hand traps in this current format, because it not only negates, it also destroys. And to round out my hand traps, I'm on 2 copies of DD Crow. Now DD Crow is essential in this format since a lot of people are playing in the graveyard. If I can get them out of the graveyard, that would be the best way to go. So yes, DD Crow is in the format, in the deck as well. For the spell cards, of course, I'm running 3 copies of Spright Starter. What Spright Starter does is it allows me to special summon a Spright monster from my deck by taking its life points as my damage for cost. And using Starter will let me get our Spright effects. This is actually the one reason why this deck is so consistent, is because with the Spright Starter, I can initialize my plays. Now do keep in mind that this specific card does lock you out from special summoning rank 2 link 2s and higher, so you do have to be aware of when you use this card. Of course, we have to run 3 copies of the Rite of Aramesir. This is our way for us to get into our adventure token engine. With that being said, 1 copy of Fateful Adventure as well as 1 copy of Draco back. And that's pretty standard for the Spright, the adventure token engine. So that is one of the biggest essentials of the deck. For the rest of the cards, I'm on 3 copies of Emergency Teleport, which allows us to special summon our Sci-Frame. 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. We do have Water Enchantress that we can send as material or as cost, so this is not too bad to worry about. Sometimes you will have that Water Enchantress, and of course it's not essentially a dead card in the hand because it allows us to search for our Rite of Aramesirs anyway. I'm also on 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. Because the Spright engine is so weak, we can't, or we are not able to OTK in turn 2. So Dark Ruler No More is actually here for us to go second, just in case, because as you know, we're not able to OTK within that second turn because our deck is pretty weak. And for consistency purposes, I'm running Upstart Goblin. I would be running Pot of Prosperities, but it's Upstart Goblin. It's a free +1 draw. Although the hatchback and the plus 1000 sucks, it is something that I have to live with. Unfortunately, that's how it is. And that is the entire Spright main deck. Now let's get right into the extra deck. The extra deck is pretty standard, honestly. For the extra deck, I'm on 2 copies of Gigantic Spright. Now Gigantic Spright is essential for your combo because this allows you to special summon a level 2 monster from your main deck. Now it does lock your opponent to level 2 rank 2 link 2s, which saves you from the Nibiru. So a lot of people will try to make sure this card does not hit the board. For the rest of the XEs, I'm running the 1 copy of Totally Awesome, as well as 1 copy of Sky Cavalry Centurion. I'm also running Downer Magician and Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. The only way that you can get to these monsters is as long as you don't use the effects of Gigantic Spright. So do keep in mind, just in case your opponents attack you with a Gigantic Spright, they rank up. You gotta remind your opponents that they are locked. Integral. Make sure you remember that because you can get some nice wins, especially for procedural line. For the Link monsters, I'm on 2 copies of Spright Elf. Spright Elf is like a monster reborn for Link 2s and rank 2s, and it is also integral for your combos as well. For the rest of the Link monsters, I'm on the 1 copy of IP Masquerena, which allows me to link up on my opponent's turn. I'm also on the 1 copy of Dark the Dark Charmer, so that way I can get a level 2 a monster from my opponent's graveyard to special summon. And nowadays, the Dark attribute is so popular, there are tons of Dark monsters, so why not run this card? I'm also on the 1 copy of Sci-Frame Lord Lambda. Essentially, this is just so I can get more link material for my access code talker, which yes, I am playing access code talker. And then for continuous linking, I have the Nightmare Unicorn. For the rest of the link monsters, our main boss is going to be Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax. Our big boy for game is Access Code Talker. And to get rid of pesky monsters on the field, if we have the essential cards, we are running the Underworld Chain Goddess. Now, these three are your blowouts. These are the cards that you're going to use if you're going for a game. Now let's go right into the side deck. That way you guys have a little bit of inspiration about what to go with. For the side deck, I'm running 2 copies of Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. This is just in case my opponent or I'm playing in the mirror match. That way I have something to at least play with. 1 copy of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This could be the 3rd DD Crow, but for this instance I opted for this because I can try and stop that gigantic Spright here. For destruction, I'm running the 2 copies of Raigeki, as well as the 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. This is basically my Lightning Storm because I don't have Lightning Storm. So this is my Lightning Storm package. I'm also on the 3 copies of Dimension Barrier. This is mainly to stop tier limits. 3 copies of the Pointer of the Red Lotus. Now yes, I know this card is expensive, but I did purchase the Freezing Chains structure decks. So I had tons of these lying around. So awesome for me to have that. And then of course, 3 copies of Evenly Matched. Now Evenly Matched is one of the nicer cards because if our opponent has way more cards than us, at least we have a way of getting rid of things like the Primitive Plummet or all those other gross cards. And essentially, that is the Brave Adventure, aka Adventure Spright deck. Alright guys, before I let you guys go off of this video, I at least wanted to show you a test hand. That way you folks can see the consistency of this deck. It's not easy talking about a deck. I think it's better to show people. So here we go. And then 1 good cut for final measure. Alright, let's get right into it. So we're going to draw our 5 cards. Put our deck on the side over here. Alright, here we go right into it. We drew Forbidden Droplet, Spright Red, Right, Jet, and Dark Ruler No More. So here's how we would do going turn 1. I'm just going to place everything here. So first, I'm going to activate my Right of Aramis here. First is going to special summon my adventure token. And then I'm going to be able to place our Faithful Adventure. The zones essentially don't matter in this deck, but I try to keep my Faithful, my Brave Engine on the left side of the board rather than the right side. Next, I'm going to actually normal summon the Spright Red to the other side of the column. And then triggering my Faithful Adventure. Faithful Adventure allows me to add an equipped monster as soon as a monster is normal or special summoned. So Spright Red was normal summoned. This means I can add my Draco back to my hand. Then next, I'm going to activate the effect of a Faithful Adventure. First, I'm going to add my Wandering Griffin Rider. And then for discard, I'm going to send my Draco back. Now my Draco back is going to trigger. It's going to equip itself to my token. Next, I'm going to use the effect of Wandering Griffin Rider to bring itself onto the field. Now I control a level 2 monster. I can use the effect of Spright Jet to special summon itself. Since Spright Jet was special summoned, I get to use Spright Jet's effect, which allows me to add a Spright Speller Trap. So I'm going to get my Spright starter. Now the next thing that I have to do is to get into Gigantic Spright. So I'm going to XZ summon both my Spright Jet and my Spright Red to get Gigantic Spright. Then I'm going to trigger the effect of my Spright Red. I'm going to detach for cost my Spright Red to special summon a level 2 monster from my deck. Because I want to ensure my opponent can't play the next turn, I'm going to grab my Nightmare Corruptor Ibly. And now I'm stuck to Link 2 Rank 2 level 2s. Next, I'm going to use my Spright Starter's effect. I'm going to special summon my Spright Blue this time. Meanwhile, I'll be taking 1100 points of damage. And Spright Starter also locks me to rank 2 Link 2 level 2. You could also go for a Toad, but that is totally to your discretion. Afterward, I'm going to trigger my Spright Blue's effect. Because it was special summoned, I get to add a Spright monster. For this, I'm going to add Pixies or Carrot. I'm going to just get a Carrot to the field. Afterward, I'm going to link off my Spright Blue as well as my Nightmare Corruptor Ibly to make my Spright Elf. I'm just going to shift these all that way out. Then I'm going to trigger my Nightmare Corruptor Ibly's effect, special summon to my opponent's side of the field. Afterward, I'm going to activate my Spright Elf's effect. I'm going to target my Spright Blue and special summon it. Then I'm going to use my Spright Carrot and special summon itself to the field as well. Afterward, I'm going to link both my Spright Blue and my Spright Carrot to make IP Masquerena. Now, one of the cool things is Spright Elf protects the monsters that are linked to it. So both my IP Masquerena and my Gigantic Spright are protected from card effects. And of course, since I still have 2 cards left in my hand, I'm just going to set my Forbidden Droplet and just have it safe from then. So right here you can see that I have a pretty decent board. This is not the ideal way to build your board, but this is what I was able to build off of those 5 cards that I had. Then in my opponent's turn, when they activate an effect, I can link up. When they summon, I use my IP's effect. I'm gonna link both the Spright Elf and the IP Masquerena to make my Mech Knight Crusader Aphromax. My IP's effect is going to trigger, making this dude invulnerable, and my opponent has to only hit this 1 card. So basically, I have an invulnerable monster and 1 negate on the board, which isn't too bad. Actually, technically 2 with Forbidden Droplet, but it isn't too bad because that is a-okay. If I were to continue this, I would go next. I would have a DD Crow, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So from this way forward, in order for me to win at this point of the game, I just need to link up. So I would link my Gigantic Spright and my Wandering Griffin Rider to make our Dark Charmer. Then, because I drew my DD Crow, I'm just going to normal summon it here. And I now have enough material to make, guess what? Access Code Talker. So 2, 3, 4, going to link into Access Code Talker. Using my Access Code's effect, I'm going to target my Mech Knight Crusader Aphromax. It'll gain 4,000 attack points, making it 4,600. All I have to do is switch my adventure token to attack position, activate the effect of Draco back to remove the IP, and here I'm swinging for game. And that is the simple test hand of this deck. Alright, so that is my Adventure Spright deck. Let me know what you think about it, what improvements I could make, if I made a misplay, because learning is part of the game. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next week's episode. Keep dueling, and let's link up. Peace!
Get ready.